Good morning, Grace. This is Dave Christenson. It's my joy to bring you a word of encouragement today. At least I hope it encourages you. The idea for this video I got one yesterday when I was reading through the book of Mark. I got to the passage where a woman broke an expensive jar of perfume and anointed Jesus' head with it prior to his crucifixion and death and burial. And some of the disciples were complaining about the waste of money, and Jesus said, no, she's done a good deed for me, and what she's done is going to be told, and she's going to be remembered by what she's done. I want to tell you a story about someone that likewise did a wonderful, beautiful thing that I think should be remembered, and at the end of this little talk, it'll relate to you too. This man I want to introduce to you, his name is Fred. Hopefully there's a picture coming up on Fred now. And Fred I met when we went with a Grace Summer Missions team to the Philippines to share the gospel there. Fred lived, he's no longer living, but he lived on the island of Negros in a little community of about 3,000 people. And the little community was based on sugarcane harvesting and production, stuff like that. Fred was a manager in the sugarcane fields, and having grown up in that community and lived there all his life, he knew many, many people. Now, the church that we went over to help had asked their members, of which whom Fred was one, to make a list of their friends who didn't know Christ and that they wanted to introduce to Christ through these foreigners coming over. And so Fred knew a lot of people. And Fred didn't feel like he had a lot of gifts of oration or speaking or things like that, but Fred wanted to use the gifts that God gave him, and that was the gift of being a man of integrity, a man of honor, a man who made friends, and who people respected. And so Fred introduced our team and me to dozens and dozens of people that he wanted to share Christ with. And he wanted us to share Christ with. So what Fred would do is he arranged for each of his friends to set aside a time in the day where we could go into their homes, and I would give my testimony, and I would be translated by my translator there, and then the translator, who was a church member, would share the gospel message with his family. And after Fred would introduce us to this family, me and my translator, he would then go on to the next house, where a half hour later we would arrive to the next house and do the same thing. And throughout the day and throughout the week, we would go from house to house, sharing with Fred's friends. And now the result was every one of Fred's friends received Christ that week. Everyone made a decision to follow him. Fred wasn't there for any of those, but Fred had set the table for us. Fred had, by his integrity, by his actions, by his courage to say, hey, you know what? I don't know how long I'm going to be living on this earth. I want my friends to know about Jesus. He seized the day. He said, I'm going to do today what I can do. And hundreds and hundreds of people came to Christ that week. That little church in Aranda saw over 300 people come to Christ that week. And in fact, everyone that Fred introduced us to, I think I mentioned this, made a profession of faith. How does this relate to us? Well, we really don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We got an election coming up. We got COVID happening. We got things happening. Each day's got enough trouble of its own. And tomorrow, you know what? We have to trust God for tomorrow. He's in control. What we can do is what we can do today. Use our gifts, use our strengths, our abilities, whatever it is. Who can we bless? Who can we serve? How can we make a difference in our little world today? And that's my challenge to you, and I hope you're encouraged. Tomorrow's God's. It's in his hand. Do today what you can do, and maybe we'll be a little more like Fred and change his world, and I hope you change your world. So thanks, Grace, and hope to see you soon.